Please be seated. So as you know, we're busy with our Lenten series, and we're using the Gospel of Luke as a means to direct our thinking and to challenge us. And our overall theme is seeing the unseen. And so today we want to explore the kingdom of God. And Hank, this is not changing. Let me just see. Yeah, there we are on business. And it's sort of subtitled The Upside Down Kingdom, because it often doesn't seem to work in ways that we want it to, as we'll see. I don't know about you, but for me, very often, this kingdom of God concept has been a bit distant, not something I really felt I had a handle on, or got my head around or easily understood. And so doing this particular study was a wonderful challenge for me, and to begin to think, well, how do we apply this kingdom practically in our lives? So this morning I want to challenge myself, and I want to change all of that. And certainly I felt more confident in understanding all of this as we have chatted, as I have done the study. For those of you who don't understand the kingdom of God, well, hopefully you'll get some greater clarity. For those of you who already know it all, then hopefully some new insights will come your way this morning. So what is this kingdom of God? Well, we're looking at it according to Luke. And so if I had to summarize, the main sort of points Luke brings up are these ones. Firstly, the only time Luke begins to try and describe the kingdom of God, he says it is like a mustard seed or like yeast. Something unseen, something small, something subtle, but has a big impact. He also says it has a future reality like a heavenly banquet, and a present reality right now. And as you heard in our reading from the Gospel, the first part, the secrets of the kingdom are unseen. Only some can see and understand. And then, as we heard in our last reading, the kingdom of God is in you and flows from within you outwardly. So let's unpack some of those things. As I began to reflect on this upside-down kingdom, I realized it means this amongst other things. That the things we expect don't happen, that the things we don't expect happen, that the power of the kingdom is not a power of authority and strength, but rather a power of love and vulnerability. That the values of the world can and should be transformed by the values of this kingdom. And that the focus is not on the king, but on the subjects, and the least important subjects become the most important. Luke takes the kingdom of God seriously. There are over 39 different references in the gospel itself to the kingdom of God. And here are some of them, just sort of titles, headings, to give you a bigger idea. The kingdom of God is good news. The kingdom of God is for the poor. The kingdom of God requires single-minded perseverance. The kingdom of God is sometimes small, but will have a big influence. The kingdom of God requires childlike faith. And he continues, not everyone will enter the kingdom of God, but anyone from anywhere can. There's a decision and a cost to joining this kingdom. Wealth can be a barrier to the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is here now, but is also coming, being fulfilled in the future. So those are some of the themes that Luke picks up as he unpacks it. And if you're following the scriptures, you'll see it right through the gospel. So what does this all mean? Well, I think it's important to try and address one or two misunderstandings people have about the kingdom of God. And I want to quote from a writer, Jim Marion, who always writes interesting and challenging things. He's going to talk about the kingdom of heaven in this quote, because different people prefer saying kingdom of God or kingdom of heaven, depending on how you translate. It's interesting, the Gospel of Matthew uses kingdom of heaven as its normal way of expressing it. So they're kind of interchangeable. But Jim Marion writes this: where we, Christians, have made a costly mistake in terms of our own spiritual growth, is thinking that this after-death heaven is the kingdom of heaven Jesus virtually dedicated all his preaching ministry to tell us about. It's not. Although Jesus acknowledged that an after-death heaven existed, Jesus devoted his preaching not to that heaven, but to a kingdom of heaven that he said was here, now, at hand. Marion continues, the single most important thing that Jesus taught about the kingdom of heaven was that the kingdom of God is within. And once we learn to put on the mind of Christ, we will see the kingdom of heaven all around us, here and now. We see ourselves and everyone else, no matter who they are, as part of God's kingdom. And we will be living in the kingdom of heaven right here on earth. Jesus did not say, the kingdom of heaven is this, because this would automatically exclude the opposite, that. Nor did Jesus say the kingdom of heaven is that, because that automatically excludes its opposite, this. Jesus did not say the kingdom of God is there, because it excludes its opposite, not there. And he didn't say it's here, because that would exclude its opposite, not here. So Jesus ended up saying the kingdom of heaven is not here and not there. You see, the bottom line is you don't die into the kingdom of heaven. You awaken into it. Let me repeat that. You don't die into it, you awaken into it. So our reading, the last of the readings, and well done in muddling all those together. Once, this is what we recorded, once on being asked by the Pharisees, the main guys, when the kingdom of God would come, Jesus replied, the coming of the kingdom of God is not something that can be observed, nor will people say, here it is, or there it is, because the kingdom of God is in you. Various translations say, in you or in your midst. Think about that for a moment. Where's the kingdom of God? In you, and you, and you. In your midst, in our midst. Quite a radical thought. So the kingdom of God starts within you and flows out. In meditating and reflecting on this, I got this kind of picture that from me, a little bit of God's love flows out in like a wave. And when it meets the bit of love from you and the bit of love from you and the bit of God's love from you flowing out, those waves converge and amplify each other. Constructive interference, I discovered, is the technical word. Waves of life-transforming, kingdom-building love. It doesn't come down and zap. It comes in and out from us as we allow God's love to flow out in waves. But think about it, why that makes so much sense. Two greatest commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and mind and will and strength. When we do that, the kingdom of God is within us and flowing out from us. Loving our neighbors as much as we love ourselves, the kingdom of God is there in us and flowing out from us and is amongst us. When we gather 2 or 3 in his name, the kingdom of God is there. We are in the kingdom. But the challenge for me from this little picture that I developed was, is this love of God flowing out from me? Is it flowing out from me, or am I not being a wave of God's love? The other thing I began to understand, that it's not a top-down kingdom. It starts in silence, in prayer, in deep intimacy, in relationship. And it's lived out of transforming love. And it moves towards joy and unending praise in the heavenly banquet. It is Christ in us, the hope of glory. So if we want pictures, for those of us who like pictures, where's the kingdom of God? All those little words say here, if you can't quite see them. It's there, it's there. It's here, it's here, it's here. The kingdom of God is everywhere. An upside-down kingdom. But what does it mean practically? This is a question I asked myself. Responsibility. A big word. We all know it. Most of us fight against it. Some of us our whole of our lives. But we are responsible to someone for something. So what does it mean to be responsible to God for building of God's kingdom? The kingdom grows when disciples are responsible, when our committed lives are lived out responsibly. And in many ways, Jesus was telling everybody around them just to grow up and get useful. Because when we do that, we become kingdom builders. The kingdom of God responsibility looks like this. We are the kingdom and the kingdom builders. Nobody else is going to do it, so if it's not happening, then we need to look in the mirror. We need to ask questions about ourselves, about our community. Secondly, we use our power to serve. And so we discover our leadership, the heart of servant leadership. When we die to ourselves, we discover we find real living. When we give generously, we find we lack nothing. When we love our enemy, we win the battle and become friends. To become rich in this kingdom, we need to give up the power of money, learn detachment. We carry the load, we go the extra mile, not because we're forced to, but because we want to. We walk the talk. Probably the strongest message Luke gives about the kingdom of God is in the parable of the talents, which he does tell in his version. The miners, he calls them, a type of money from the time. And you all know the story. A nobleman goes away and he entrusts one person with 10, another person with 5. When he comes back, he wants to see what they've done with it. And Jesus says, this is the kingdom of God. And he says, when I return, what will your investment, my investment in you, have produced? I've given each of you something. What are you doing with the something? And then he ends with this beautifully cryptic kind of phrase, isn't it? I tell you that to everyone who has, more will be given. But as for the one who has nothing, even what they have will be taken away. When the nobleman returns to the one who made, he gave a kingdom to look after. And to the other one, a kingdom to look after. And for the one who did nothing, he cast him out. A serious warning. Our responsibility is a serious responsibility. So how do we pull all that together? Well, probably the most famous phrase about the kingdom of heaven is Matthew's version. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things will be given to you. You all know that. But Luke has his own version of that as well. Seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. What that means is every day we're making choices all the time. Good choices, bad choices. But the interesting thing is that every choice we make is a choice to build the kingdom or not. Every choice we make, even the most mundane choices, are kingdom-building choices, are love-flowing out from us choices. And when we choose to make kingdom choices our priority, everything else kind of falls into place. Things kind of just settle down, and not always an easy way, but work out. This is how we learn to trust, how we learn to have real faith. The great preacher R.C. Sproul put it like this: the only way the kingdom of God is going to be manifest in this world before Christ comes again is if we manifest it by the way we live as citizens of the King of the heaven and subjects of the King. No other way will it be seen, visible, or grow. It's our responsibility, it's our calling, and we have already been given whatever we need to build it, each one of us. And I end with the Lord's Prayer. Every time, and we'll pray it later today, just be aware of the power of these words that often are glibly spoken. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. That is what the kingdom of God is all about. Amen.